Ndewo, Madu Koga here. So in this video, I want to kind of go over the Igbo situation. So I kind of want to build on my previous video regarding this back in January. As you will all recall, I started learning Igbo, um, you know, at the beginning of this year, but I was having trouble deciding on which variety to learn. And actually, I've learned some. I don't know. I think a lot of what I said in the previous video was not accurate. So I've learned a lot since then. So I just want to share with you all just some of that and kind of where I'm at now as far as learning Igbo. All right. So first, let's go over just what Igbo is, as a language. So as you can see, I made this map here. So Igbo, there are around 7 Igboid languages. What I call core Igbo, which is in the orange here. And this one has the most speakers. And within core Igbo, there's at least 70% mutual intelligibility within it. That's like the base percentage. Alright, they have Ekpeye, Ogba, Ikwere, Anioma, Ika, and Ebony. So those are the 7 languages. Now, as I say here, so yeah, core Igbo overall has at least 30 million speakers. I would say maybe 35 now, honestly. And 10 million speakers for the other Igboid languages and all. Alright, so as you all recall from my last video, I was, because the only material that I had that was really worth anything was the Foreign Service Institute course. And that was based on the Mbaise dialect, which is in the southern cluster. So that I have some other material, but it's mostly what they call Central Igbo, which is a attempt of it's an attempt at a standardization. I probably went over this in my last video, but I'm not that crazy about it. I mean, I'm not against standardization in principle, but I think they could have done a better job with it. But with that being said, it is what it is. It could be a lot worse too. So I'm really not interested in learning that one, mostly just because no one really speaks it. It's just like spoken on BBC and radios and stuff and some media, which makes it more useful, I guess. But I don't know. I guess it might be just a nonconformist in me. But I just think it's kind of artificial. It's supposed to be a kind of a mix between Owere Igbo and Onitsha Igbo. So at any rate, so let me go over this map here. So Proto-Igbo probably, this is just this is obviously a estimated approximate range of where it was, but just based off of the it's in a location where you have a meeting of a lot of these different Igboid languages. So this seemed to me to be the best approximate as far as a homeland for the proto language. All right, so it's kind of interesting, the proto language. I have a document, a comparative Igboid document by Roger Blench, and I forgot the name of the other author, and also K. Williamson, I believe. But it's pretty good. It doesn't, obviously it doesn't cover every single variety, but it does a pretty good job. I think it covers a lot. And it has a reconstruction of Proto-Igboid there, which I like, which is kind of interesting because you can see like which Igboid languages and varieties. Like we can see what some of them retain some more of those they conserve more of the proto features, and while they innovated in other areas, and whereas, so like for example, Proto-Igboid had four tones: high, low, rising, falling. It didn't have a mid-tone, right? So the mid-tone was kind of an innovation that basically all the Igboid languages developed, and and the but some of the languages and varieties, they're a little more conservative as far as the tone system. They preserve some of the contour tones. Um, where also Proto-Igboid had a retroflex consonants, which a lot of, like, those same ones that may have preserved some of the tones, the tone system, they don't have those retroflex consonants. So, and there are other innovations like aspiration, but we'll get into all that. At any rate, so yes, that's Proto-Igboid. That's kind of an approximate area of where it was spoken. So I guess I'll start first with let's see here. Yeah, I'll just go in order. So you got Ebonyi, which is its own language. So one more thing before I start. There's a lot of controversy out there about whether or not they're different languages or just dialects of the same language, and based on like from a linguistic point of view, like I said, there's around 7 languages, right? But that doesn't mean they're not Igbo languages. Like for example, you have a lot of Chinese languages, like Cantonese, for example, or Wu, um, and they're recognized as Chinese languages, right? So it's similar. It's a similar dynamic here. So them being separate languages doesn't negate their Igbo-ness, if that makes any sense. But yeah, anyway, so Ebonyi is one language. It has around 3 million speakers, spoken mostly in Ebonyi state, with the exception of the far south of the state. So, some common features. All right. So my name is I'm not gonna attempt to say this because I don't know what the tone would be. But you can see it on the screen, and just remember this so you can compare it to the other ones. So this language has around 4 dialects, maybe more. You got Ngbo, you got Easy, you got Eza, and Ikwo. Let's see. Then we have Anioma, the Anioma language, which has around 2 million speakers. This one is west of the Niger in Delta State mostly. Um, it I don't have enough information on this one yet, but it basically has around 4 dialects. Oh yeah, one more thing. I'm sorry. So what I'm basing this on, so like, uh, how I distinguish whether it's a separate language or just a dialect of a language, is the mutual intelligibility rate, right? So according to Glottolog, it's a linguistic website. You can go on at glottolog.org. Their criteria is 70%. That's the base. So in order for 2 languages to be or 2 dialects to be the same language, they have to have at least 70%. They have to share at least 70% mutual intelligibility. So basically, all that means is that they understand 70% of what each one is saying, at least, right? If it goes below 70%, then they consider it a different language. And some linguists have even stricter interpretations where they go up to 80. But I think 70 is a good number. So that's what this is based on. That's what this is all based on that criteria. So so yeah, because you even have like even in the case of Ebony, the mutual intelligibility between these is pretty low. Like I'm sure it gets to 70%, right? Because this is one of the early groups to split off, basically. All right, so yeah, I was at Anioma language, around 2 million speakers. It has Enwani dialect, Ndokwa, Ukuani, and Ndoni. And by the way, Anioma, if I'm not mistaken, it means like good land. Anioma. Um, yeah. Then you have Ika, which it's in the same region as the Anioma language. It's definitely the westernmost Igboid language. It only has around 250,000 speakers, but that can be an old number. It might be a little more now. Um, so this one's pretty interesting. It's very close to the Edo language. Um, yeah, so it has. I don't like I said. I'm not gonna attempt to pronounce this because I don't know the tone that this one has for this particular phrase. My name is, but yeah. Then we have going a little further south. We have Ogba, right? So and also, I don't know if I went over this in my previous video regarding Igbo, but there was these maps that I kind of took, um, that I kind of based some of my knowledge on back then, and it had basically Igbo in like I think it was five major clusters, and I came to find out like those clusters aren't really. They're maybe they. I guess they're geographic clusters more than linguistic clusters. So these are just purely linguistic clusters here. All right, so yeah, so Okba is a pretty interesting one too. Very close to the proto, or at least what I believe to be the proto homeland. There's a German word for that, but I'm not gonna I'm not gonna attempt to pronounce it. Um, so yeah, Okba has around 1 million speakers. It's in River State, Northern River State. Um, it's I believe it's on the Orashi River. Goes through it. Um, then further south, you have Ekpeye, the Ekpeye language, which has around 100,000 speakers. It's hard. I had trouble finding a good census for this as far as the population. So I guess it's around 100,000. It's probably a lot more actually. This is actually the most divergent Igboid language. So I'm gonna make a chart. I don't have it. I haven't made it yet, but once I do, I'll go over that with you all as well, just so you can see how it splits. So yeah, Ekpeye, very cool one. It's in the delta here on the Orashi River. All right. The next we have Iquere. Iquere has around 3 million speakers. So this one is spoken in River State, and also spoken in and around Port Harcourt, which is, I think it's the biggest city in southeastern Nigeria. It could be Onitsha, but if it's at least the second biggest, it's definitely the biggest city in the Niger Delta region. So it's a pretty important area. So yeah, Ikwere language. 3 million speakers. Some common features. What is your? I'll go over this in a bit. What is your name? So you would say Kinivu Rehwai. Kinivu Rehwai. My name is Rehwambu. Rehwambu. So just try to compare that to the other languages. Yeah, so it has an interesting thing going on with the B and the V, which you can also find in a lot of the South Core dialects. Um, so just to give an example, there's 24 different Ikwere communities. So I think Log has those 24 listed as separate dialects, but I don't know if that's, I don't think that's a linguistic a description of it. I think it's just, based on the fact that they're just 24 separate towns. But it was so it was hard for me to kind of gauge at like what the dialects are. So, but I kind of broke it down like this, right? The way you say person in each dialect, it varies. So I mean, I'm not saying these are legitimate linguistic groupings, but I think they could be, just because of how you say person. It's possible, at least. At the very least, it's a good way to categorize them. So, um, and just for reference, person in most core dialects is madu, madu. So the closest one here would be madu, madu. It's just in the northeastern area. Um, Then you have in the northwest, you have Gabadu. Gabadu. I'm still working on those labial velars, so bear with me. um, then in the southwest, you have Vadu. Vadu. And then in the southeastern part, you have Badu. Badu. So that's just kind of my own thing. I don't know if those are legitimate, like I said, but it's interesting nonetheless to see the sound changes. All right. So now let's go to the core Igbo dialects, right? So like I mentioned earlier, core Igbo internally has a base of 70% mutual intelligibility, more or less. So that might seem like a lot, but sometimes that 30% makes a lot of difference of what you understand from people. Um, so yeah, so like with other linguists, they might like the ones that think 80% is a better base, to measure mutual intelligibility, or to determine mutual intelligibility. Then they would consider these separate languages. So like I said, this is I still have a lot more to look into this. That's why I said here the validity of groupings within core Igbo is debatable. But this is from what I read, this seems to be more or less accurate. So let's start with some of the more divergent ones. So Echie, um, Echie cluster has around 1 million speakers. It's in River State and parts of southern Abia State. So out of all the core dialects that I've come across, this seems to be the most divergent. I could be wrong. There could be like more. There could be like, Echie could have like a northern counterpart, like in Suka maybe, where it's just a similar level of divergence. But at any rate, so some common features. So it has aspirated consonants like the South Core group. It has some other interesting features like for example, in Echie, if like in core, in a lot of the core dialects, if you want to say a little bit, you say nwantiti, nwantiti. But in Echie, you say wanshi, wanshi. So yeah, it's pretty divergent, I would say. So yeah, so like for example, what is your name would be ni ahange, ni ahange. My name is Ahambu, right? So, like I have here, it might be part of the South cluster, but I kind of doubt it. So yeah, that information, like those, the examples I gave you are particularly from Echie proper. There are other dialects in this cluster. Omuma. And by the way, this is spoken in Eche, LGA, local government area. We have Omuma, you have Asa, and Ndoki. To be fair, these last three, I don't know. I know like pretty much nothing about. I don't think there's any literature on them. So I don't know how, if they're related to Eche, if they belong in the same cluster, or if they're part of the South cluster. It's kind of tricky because a lot of people like Ngwa people from the South cluster, and even some Aros, I think, migrated down to River State, on the coast here. So it's kind of hard to gauge. Um, but yeah, that's a very interesting cluster. Um, let's see. Then let's skip to the Cross River one, which is also pretty divergent. Or I don't know, it could be wrong because I don't know that much about it, but it's definitely a smaller cluster. Um, it's the second smallest, three with 3 million speakers. So I don't know the tone for this, but I kind of have an idea of some characteristics of the cluster, although it varies with dialect. So in the north, like you have Eda, which is like Afikpo, also known as Ehukbo. Um, you have Abam in Ohafia, and Aro in Arochukwu. Um, so these are, these people neighbor the cross river peoples like the Efik and Ibibio, etc., Ijagam. So a lot of cultural similarities. There's a whole thing there with the Aro Confederacy, very interesting history. Um, but yeah, unfortunately, I don't know too much about this cluster. Um, I've in the comparative Igboid document that I have, it includes the basically the Eda dialect, so I have an idea of how that looks. Ohafia, I've heard it a lot, but I haven't seen any linguistic work on it. And Aro, I've heard a little bit of, and I don't think there's any linguistic literature on that one, unfortunately. But it's definitely something I want to look into a bit more. Um, then you have the North group, North Core cluster, which is the biggest. If you consider it, if you consider uh, if you consider the validity, if you consider it valid, a valid grouping, that is. But just let's assume that it is. It would be the biggest cluster, a core cluster of 15 million speakers. So like some examples of this, for example, like if you want to say my name is, like in Onitsha you would say Afambu, and in Oka you would say Avambu. Um, I'm not too sure about Elugu, but yeah. So you have a lot of different and also like these lists aren't by no means completed. Like as far as the dialects within these clusters, it's not complete by any means, and it's hard to. I think it's even pretty hard to get an idea of what considers the dialects here. But I have a I think I have a general idea here. So this cluster, you have Elugu, spoken around Enugu. Elugu, I think that means like on top of the mountain or something, on top of the hill. You have Nsukka, which from what I hear is pretty divergent, kind of like Echie. Nzam and Anam, Nkanu, Akbaja, and also like I'm probably not pronouncing these names right. Mostly because I don't know the tones for them. So Ayamelum, Oka, Onicha. I put that in one group, which I probably should split them honestly, but I'm not sure. Udi. You have Okigwe in the south. So and Ikem up here. So yeah, there's probably more, but you guys get the idea. So this cluster is spoken mostly in Anambra and Enugu states. Um, then last but not least, let's go to the South cluster, which has around 10 million speakers. I might have to update these numbers honestly, because I'm thinking this one's a bit more as well. Maybe 15 million. So in that case, it would have the same amount of speakers as North. But at any rate, so some common features. Let me go back to this for a second. So like in the standardized Igbo, like if you want to say my name is, you say Ahambu, right? So if you can see that here in the southern cluster, that and then so name like is Afa, it changes to Aha in south, or Ahwa, right? And then you have this thing. You have a lot of aspirated consonants. You have similar, like B and V in a lot of cases are kind of interchangeable. Same with P and F. Bilabial voice stop, bilabial voice fricative, or I'm sorry, labial dental voice fricative, and unvoiced bilabial stop, and unvoiced labial dental fricative, to give you the linguistic terms. So like in these, you like gini wu ahwagi. What is your name? Ahwamu. My name is. Um, so yeah, you can kind of see the differences there. So this one has different. So this is supposed to be the biggest dialect, it's supposed to be the biggest dialect overall of Igboid. Biggest single dialect Ngwa, with around 5 million speakers. I'm not sure if that's true, if that is the biggest, but it's at least the second biggest. Maybe Oka Onitsha would be bigger. But yeah, so this one is spoken in Abia State, mostly the southern portion of Abia State, around Aba, the city of Aba. Um, so it's kind of like the Imo River goes south of Aba and kind of goes up. Um, then you have Mbaise, which is kind of in between Owerri and Umuahia. You have Iswama, which is, by the way, this is all Imo State. So Mbaise is Imo State for the most part. Same with Iswama. Ohuhu, that's in Abia State and a little north of Umuahia. Or it might be in Umuahia. I'm not sure. Maybe if you all have any knowledge of that, you can let me know if Umuahia is a Ohuhu town. Then you have Isuitem in the north. Uguta back here in Imo State, close to the Niger River. Egbema. Umwakpo, Mbano, and Owerri. Which I'm also confused about Owerri, because at first I thought they spoke mostly in Mbaise. That Mbaise is the native clan there, but then I heard it was Iswama. Then I heard it was just Owerri is its own clan, or it's connected to Iswama somehow. I'm not sure. But yeah, if any one of you can clarify that, I'd appreciate it. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for the clusters. So with all that being said, as far as what I want to learn in Igbo, let's see how long it's been so far. Okay, I don't want to make this too long. So as far as what I want to learn previously, before I pretty much knew anything, I was just content on learning, the standardized Igbo. Then, the more I found out, and especially since I have this really good FSI course, Foreign Service Institute course, for Mbaise Igbo. I lean more towards that one. Um, just spoken here because I thought it was pretty. It's in a pretty um it's in a pretty like the area that it's in. You know, between Uere and Omuahia is kind of practical. It, but then I was kind of exploring, and I really got interested in Iquere and also Ogba too. So I was kind of I was like, I want to learn Iquere, Ogba, and like Mbaise, Igbo. Um, then the more I looked into it, it's like that's a bit much. I was also looking at some of the Anioma dialects, so I thought it was a bit much. So I took off Ogba. The more I looked into Iquere, the more I liked about it. Um, it's just pretty much has everything I'm looking for in like a Igboid language or even a West African language. I really like it. The phonology, grammar, the region it's spoken in, the people. It has a there's a practical component to it as well because it's spoken in their native to the Port Harcourt region. And I really like the Niger Delta. I've always been interested in it. So you know that so basically Piquere is like it's pretty much established that that's what either my main focus is going to be on or my co-focus is going to be on because I don't want to do any more than two varieties, honestly. So so yeah, so Iquere I'm pretty much decided about. um so I wanted to pick a core dialect, just because it's obviously a lot more speakers, because Iquere has 3 million, right? So I wanted to pick one from the core language, but um, I wanted to basically find a dialect that I was interested in, which has been pretty hard. So for now, I can say that I don't know about Mbaise anymore, but I'm definitely like so. These are the I'm pretty much looking at every cluster here except for the north one. No offense to you northerners, but I found some material for Echie dictionary actually by Roger Blanche. And I really like it, but the problem with Echie is, it's not practical. There's only 1 million speakers maybe, and like I said, it's divergent. So it's really divergent from the other core dialects. So I would have a hard time communicating with someone from Owerri or Onitsha, etc. You know, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to rule it out completely, but I don't think I'll be learning this one. But that could change maybe, depending on what circumstances. Another cluster I'm really interested in is Cross River one, and like I said, like most stuff I can find is for a Hukbo or a Fikbo. And I'm honestly nothing about a Fikbo dialect or a Hukbo really sticks out for me. So Ohafia, I hear there's a lot of like audio media you can find. So from what I hear, it's pretty interesting. I like it, but I'm really even more intrigued with Aro just because I've heard like maybe a little of that dialect spoken, but I'd have to. I'm really interested in, if nothing else, for like a linguistic project to kind of document it. But with that being said, all these three dialects are part of the same cluster, so they're pretty similar. I can imagine. I mean, I would imagine. Um, but it's not that big. 3 million speakers. There are things I like about it. I like the Cross River region. I'm really interested in it. Um, but practicality wise, I'd probably be best staying in the South cluster. Because you have like big town, you have Owerri, you have Umuahia, and you have Aba, three big Igbo cities. So, so yeah, I might just have to go all in on the practicality for the second one. But obviously, it would be nice if I could get both. If I can get one that's very practical and one that I'm really interested in. So far, Ngwa looks promising. Like I said, it has the um, it's basically, it seems to be the biggest, or maybe, or at least the second biggest Igbo dialect. So it has that going for it. And it's kind of close to the Cross River region, so they're neighbors with, I think, the Efik that are here. Um, and Yeah, so it's on this amount of speakers alone, it seems to be the most practical one, especially if I'm focusing on the southern core group. So, yeah, I'm not, but like I said, unfortunately, I haven't found much linguistic material for this dialect, and which is kind of weird because it might be the biggest one. So, but I found a little bit, and from the little bit I've seen, I kind of like it. It seems to be very similar to Mbaise. I can't imagine the mutual intelligibility is below 80% here. I think it would probably at least be 70%, but I could be wrong. But they definitely understand each other for the most part. And yeah, I mean, I want to explore other South cluster dialects, but I don't know. I'm thinking, so basically, best case scenario is I find out more about Ngwa, and I get really interested in it. So then I have that with like the co. I have it basically as a co-focus along with Iquere, and that would be the most ideal situation. At the very worst case scenario, I just have Iquere as my main focus, and I have like I don't know, um, a core dialect as my just like secondary focus. Because basically what I'm trying to say is, I'm not the only way I'll make a core Igbo dialect in my basically, for it to be co-focus with my co-focus with Iquere, I'd have to have like I have to be pretty interested in it, you know. I'd have to have some genuine interest in it. So yeah, so that might be Ngwa. I'm not sure. If any of you are speakers of Ngwa, or no speakers, or no learning material, let me know. So it might help me make a decision. But yeah, but if it's if Ingwa turns out to be not that dissimilar from Mbaise, and if there's nothing that really sticks out for me with it, then yeah, it'll be I'd probably just make this whole south cluster kind of a sub focus, where Iquere would be my main one. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you all for watching, and let me know if you have any questions, and obviously if you have any information on Iquere or Ngwa Igbo, please share it with me. Also, Echie or Cross River, or anything that I've missed here that you think I could have done better, or any new information. It would be really appreciated. All right, you all have a good night.